Okay, if you guys are ready, we'll go ahead and get started. I'll let you introduce yourselves and again, go through the information we talked about, and the students, I'll get out of the way so you can see the students. If you need anything, let me know.
All right, guess I'll kick it off. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you. Looks like a beautiful day on campus. My name is Matt Blevins. I am a 99 grad of Center College. I'm majored in economics and got a postgraduate degree and a master's in economics / econometrics in 2000 at the University of Cincinnati after Center. I'm from Lexington, Kentucky, and had a wonderful experience at Center. Did study abroad, all that good stuff. So that's a little bit about who I am. I live in Louisville, Kentucky now. Married another Center grad, and we have 2 teenagers at this point. So that's kind of life today. Hope homecoming was good. I missed homecoming this year. A couple more years will be my 20-something anniversary, so I'll get back there at some point. Share a little bit about my career trajectory. Like most of you, I would say at Center, economics degree, kind of knew something in that direction, business oriented or finance. Wasn't really sure, and that was okay because I kept going in my academic career for another couple of years in grad school, and that gave me some room to figure things out. Really wasn't sure even then exactly what I wanted. I graduated and immediately took the technical skills that I built and went into really an early job that was kind of an up and coming consulting firm out of Texas, and went to work for them, putting to use my technical skills, econometric modeling. It happened to be in the retail sector, so a lot of our clients were retailers, and exposed me to a lot of marketing activity that happens at the retail level. And this was somewhat in the early days of big data, computing power starting to grow, and the ability to sort of create some data and insights about the retailer's customers. And that was about a 4-year stint, 4 to 5 years that I did with that company. I think I was like the 15th employee hired. And by the time I left, they were up to 120 people. So it was one of those really early days growth company, technology oriented, and gave me a lot of confidence and the skills that I've learned, first working experience and early days of what that was like. And good discipline, but putting in 50, 60-hour weeks as a young, hungry employee was a good experience, but also sort of educated me on, work-life balance and, not over-indexing too much like I did. But it was really good growth experience. I moved to Louisville, wanted to get back home closer to Kentucky with my wife, and we started a family, and there was a lot of travel that was involved in that early days, and very quickly decided to start looking for a new role, and joined Brown-Forman in the spirits industry, and really started my career as a analyst. Again, transferring those hard skills into a different industry. Spent 5 years or so in what is sort of a consumer insights, which is marrying what's happening, who's buying our products, what do consumers want from our brands, understanding brand marketing. So I took those hard skills, but then really developed a passion for the industry and, the world of spirits. Happened to be a really good time to get into the industry because it was very much a bourbon, whiskey centric company. And I worked on the Jack Daniels brand, which is owned by Brown-Forman, and I spent 18 years in that company and on that brand as kind of the American whiskey category really began to grow significantly, both in the U.S. and globally. So that gave me a ton of experience. I worked in lots of different capacities in that job, and was able to work across brand management, innovation management, global roles. Even though I was based here in Louisville, I traveled the world and saw how our brands came to life around the world, and then also regional roles here in the U.S. So the U.S. market. And that was just a fantastic career and experience working in the industry. And just in the last year, I made the move over to Heaven Hill Brands, which is based here in Louisville, a family-owned company in the wine and spirits industry. Most of the business is U.S. based, but with a range of brands from Elijah Craig bourbon to Evan Williams bourbon to Deep Eddy vodka, wine and spirit, or mostly all spirits, but pretty much every category is covered and across a lot of price points. And I'm the chief marketing officer here, and my responsibility is to lead the brand marketing, kind of what's traditionally called the P's of marketing: the product, the packaging, the promotional activity. The biggest P is the people, and our everything from our product lines to our marketing activities to aligning with our sales and distributors who sell our product to customers at retail. So it's a big job, big role, and I'm just a year into this current role, but I've been in the industry for quite a long time. Again, have a lot of passion for the industry, and have really enjoyed my time working based in Kentucky in one of Kentucky's great industries. So it's been a really fun career. As far as career advice that I would give, there's a couple of things. One, it's okay that you don't right now know what you want to do. Most people don't. And, coming into this industry, there's so many types of roles that, if you're interested and passionate about the industry, that you can find your way from, finance to communications to chemistry, and distilling arts is certainly a growth industry. And there's a lot of activity happening here in the state. So, you don't have to pigeonhole yourself. I think if you have passion for the industry, there's lots of ways in. The hard skills that you develop at Center and beyond, I think, are certainly applicable across this industry. It will get you into, a role, a starting point. But the great thing is you can work in one part of the industry, take that knowledge, go work in another part. And most companies in the industry really encourage and create lots of opportunities to move around. And that well-roundedness of taking a chemistry background into the distilling side of the business, but then maybe finding a passion for marketing or sales. There's just so many opportunities. So use the hard skills to get you into the room, into a foot in the door, and then go explore and find ways that you can continue to grow yourself. And then finally, I would just say, while the hard skills will get you there and get you sort of in the room and maybe in some roles at companies, it's really the soft skills that will help you grow even further. And, learning how to motivate people, how to work with a team, all the things I think you're getting experience with at Center really are valuable. And being able to connect dots within your company and take, what you learn here and what you learn there and bring it all together. That work that you're doing, I think, at Center will help you navigate career life and corporate worlds and, startup worlds that exist in our industry. So focus on getting the hard skills right now, but also developing those softer skills for your future will be very helpful. I'll stop there maybe, and I don't know if you want to take questions now or you want to have everyone go. I can turn it over.
Well, does anybody have questions for Matt at this point? Okay, we'll just go on now to Roy Lee, and then if you think of questions, of course, we'll have lots of other opportunities. So thank you. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah. Well, hello, I'm Roy Lee Wigginton. I graduated from Center in 2008. I majored in sociology and minored in history, and loved my time at Center. Spent a lot of I spent 6 years there because I worked there 2 years after. I joined the student life office team and worked in student activities, wanting to do something in the events realm after leaving, but still wanting to apply, what I studied. Eventually, after that, I moved to Charlotte to work for an events company there. I was there about a year. My grandfather got ill and wanted to be back closer to home, so kind of made a quick pivot and moved back toward Kentucky, and was looking for jobs and found a job at Maker's Mark in their hospitality program. So again, to kind of what Matt was saying, it wasn't necessarily maybe the job I for sure wanted, but it was a foot in the door and it was something I knew I could do. I'd led tours at Center for the career for admissions office, and that was really my only experience in that regard. But I knew I could talk to people. I knew could tell a story, and I knew that I loved bourbon. That had been a passion I had discovered there at Center as well. And being from Kentucky, it was just such an iconic industry. And that was 12 and a half years ago. It was a great time to get into the industry. It's an even better time now. The amount of growth that I know we've all kind of seen has been surprising, probably, I would say, to all of us. Because you think it's hit the top and then it just keeps going. But yeah, so I started there at Maker's Mark in the tour program, leading tours and educating. We kind of framework, there's no real script. So it is getting in there, working alongside folks to understand the whole process of how bourbon's made. And then you get to kind of craft your own message of hitting these key points, but how do you tell the story of, Maker's Mark and how that's created? I did that for about a year and a half, and then shifted gears into a role there managing events on site. It was a new position, so it was something that I was able to kind of help create. I will say there's been a theme of, and I think this is something that Center helped prepare me for, was you're never really afraid to say no. You're always willing to raise your hand and say, I'd like to try that, or taking on a little bit more responsibility, or even sometimes when it's something that maybe is a little bit challenging, being okay with taking that challenge. Not everybody is cut out for that, I will say, like not everybody, but Center students like a challenge. And so just being in a room with other folks and you're the one constantly kind of saying, yes, let me try that, let me do more, I think is an asset that Center doesn't necessarily teach you on paper, but you leave there with that skill, whether you know it or not. And so advanced there and was kind of led the events side at the distillery for 6 or 7 years, growing that program from not really doing much to, we had, some weeks, 5, 6 events, things going on. And then shifted gears and moved to our Louisville office. We have a small office here on the more traditional marketing side, leading the kind of events for the broader state. And that encompassed anything across Kentucky from, stuff at a liquor store, a bar, restaurant, to more traditional events. And then working with our sales team across the state as well. And then as of January of this year, I've taken on a role that deals with some of our key partners. any brand does a lot of work with partners and with different, especially in the bourbon industry, different accounts. So our biggest, I'm sure you're probably familiar with Keeneland Racecourse in Lexington. They're our largest account in the state. They're only open a handful of months, but they sell a lot of Maker's Mark through there. We sponsor a race with them in the spring. So I manage that partnership along with Breeders' Cup and a couple of others nationally, which has given me, again, some opportunity for some travel and different scope of work, different players and people to continue that career growth. Because I'm not couldn't imagine doing the exact same thing every day. And even in the same role, every day is a little bit different. So for me, that has been such a blessing because I don't think I could do just the same thing every day. So that's kind of got me as far as career trajectory to where I am today. I would say that, as far as what Center provided me in addition to the education, and I will say, aside from the fact that, my sociology and history major, I use it way more than I ever thought possible in this role. Because, a family-led brand that has a ton of history to it. Bourbon as an industry in Kentucky itself has a ton of history to it. And all of that's part of the story that we're bringing to life in somebody's glass. So for me, bringing all of those elements that I had studied and then the whole kind of, experience on the job is what I find exciting, and new ways to do it, new ways to tell the story, or new ways to kind of approach a consumer who maybe either thinks, okay, I don't know much about bourbon, I'm trying to find a way in, or the folks who say, I've seen makers everywhere, I don't really, I know that, but do you? How do you approach that? How do you, maybe sell our brand or endear our brand to someone who maybe thinks, okay, well, there's so many out there, let me go with something I don't know, something that's new. We have been around since 1953, and we have been for a reason, make some pretty damn good whiskey. So that's kind of the career trajectory of it. Again, a little echoing what Matt said, the soft skills of being able to work within a team, and then I would say just being a good person. In this industry, it is a very small industry, especially if you get into a niche industry, whatever it is, if it's not bourbon. Be nice to everybody, because you don't know who's going to be in a room with you down the road 6, 8, 10 years, who maybe they're your boss one day. You don't know. Those type of things happen a ton, aside from just it's the right thing to do. You don't want to be that person who's burning bridges in an industry that doesn't, it's only so big, and people talk. So it is one of those things I would say, show up, make sure you're mindful of your work ethic and your reputation, and that's what you're wanting to put your best foot forward every day. And that's, I think how you get successful, where you're wanting to bring the best to the brand. And for me, I bring my best when I have the challenge, when I have something new and different. And so raising your hand, it's okay to say, like, especially if you have a great manager, and having that dialogue of when you want to grow. And most, thankfully, I think most distilleries are the type, as Matt was saying, they want that. They want someone who's going to be curious, explore, connect the dots. I mean, no offense to my chemistry professor at Center, I learned way more about chemistry here, and talking to people who work in the lab, who work in the distillery, and understanding the process of how that's made, than it is reading a book. And it's just, again, for me, it's just the hands-on aspect of it. So it's, I was also took chemistry for non-major, so, take that for what it is. But yeah, so that's kind of been my trajectory of the side of it. working with this last year, getting to work with some of our partners on the national level has been really exciting, and met a ton more people that you just get to engage with. And, it's what makes the job fun for me. And then getting to see those activations or different things that we're doing out in market, seeing the, months of work for, the showing up for a 2-day horse race and what that looks like when it comes to life. Is great. It's just, it's pretty rewarding. Yeah, and it's a pretty fun industry to be in. It's, our old master distiller, who was also master distiller at Heaven Hill prior to that, give you a sense of how folks move around. He said it's not brain surgery. The worst thing that can happen is whiskey doesn't go out the back door. So, we try, it is serious. We take our job seriously. We just try not to take ourselves too seriously, and enjoy the work that we get to do every day. One of the things that has been great in the last couple of years, and another passion of mine that kind of developed at Center that's found its way to integrate, we are on a journey to really exploring and understanding conservation and what that means to us in the process of a natural product. We're a farm product. We come from water and grains grown locally, and we interact with farmers, and we own our watershed and all those type of things. A lot of things that we've done for decades, but looking at what that really means, how can we do it more sustainably? So that's been an interesting way to then, okay, we're doing these things. How do we tell that story? Because we see consumers, it matters to consumers. If you think about your buying decisions, and there's probably stuff that you buy or don't buy because of, whether it's an emotional connection or whether it's a value of the brand that you like or connect with. So that's been an interesting thing to see. Another kind of ancillary passion find its way into my work professionally has been really kind of cool to see. So yeah, that's kind of my story, and I'll pass it over to Marcus.
Thanks, Worthy.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, and despite I'm a little on the opposite side of the business from these two, but then there's also a lot of commonalities with what they've said as far as kind of start at the from the back end of the discussion here, but to kind of tie it in to my stuff, the things that have probably paid off the most, despite being a science major, but that Center gives you, with the kind of small environment and kind of how things are structured there, kind of the ability to interact with a smaller team and really have those kind of the skills to put together some critical information, connect those dots yourselves, and then communicate that and work with those people has been kind of a way that not even thinking about it when you go through it at Center, but has been a way to stand out from people coming from other places, and that's the one piece that most definitely echoes even the guys on the marketing side. So something to pay attention to even as a science major. So at Center I was a biology major, and then went to UK for a master's in we'll call it biochemistry. I kind of put together my own type of thing, but at Center, kind of what kicked it all off, I had a micro class with Dr. Ritchie, who I think she might have just retired a couple of years ago, but she hooked me up with the guys at Firm Solutions, who have since went on to start Wilderness Trail. So Pat Heist and Shane Baker, they're still in town and distilling, but I went there and worked in the lab with them, which kind of like I was saying, they kind of sparked it all off, and ended up going to UK and built a little a thing in the route of a biofuels type thing, so industrial ethanol. Then you start looking for jobs in that, and they're all out in the middle of cornfields in Kansas and Nebraska, and And then you think about it a little bit more, and you're like, I could stay pretty close to home, do the exact same process, but have it be a lot more fun. It tastes a lot better, you know. So that's kind of how that all went. And yeah, so while I was getting my master's at UK, I worked at Alltex Brewery and Distillery. So that was kind of the second foot into the industry. And it was a lot of fun there, and a good, like, I don't know, it's kind of all over the place for lack of a better term, but that lets you learn a lot, and you got to be a lot more hands-on than what somebody in that kind of position would normally be. Then went to Wild Turkey for just under 2 years. They were starting their plan up. So that was another thing. It was, you know, probably 60, 80-hour weeks in that stretch. But they had some top-notch equipment and needed people to figure it all out. Yeah, that was kind of like holding on to a rocket ship as it goes up. But you know, learned some stuff that I never thought I would, you know, want to get into, or would, you know, stuff that you didn't even know existed. So from there, I went to Four Roses, and that's where I was for about 7 years. And you know, kind of another situation where at that time they were not distilling at full capacity and only bottling probably 3 days a week, 4 days a week sometimes. And then by the time I left, it was brand new, you know, distillery doubled, brand new bottling facility every day of the week and overtime, you know. So full, you know, built the whole bottling plant. Kind of, it was drawn on a napkin initially, and then the guy retired. So figuring all that out as well, doubling the size of the distillery. So kind of another situation where you got to use that kind of center ingenuity and connecting those dots together. Like, you got your background info that you got now, like let's work with your team and figure it all out. So another really big set of valuable experience, and then, you know, get pulled into things like package engineering and you know, developing new products, you know, working with the marketing team and all that kind of deal. So that got me, try to cut this story a little shorter. It got me to where I've switched to Michter's about a year and a quarter ago now, I guess, at this point. So now I'm the director of quality and R&D here. So I've kind of stepped down in company size slightly at each step of the way, but it's been a lot of fun because especially here, I've really been enjoying the spot I'm in. You get to be very hands-on with really every step of the process. Probably at any point in time have projects in every single department. And then, you know, you're talking with you know, the owner of the company, or, you know, the person running, you know, any area at any time. So yeah, it's been really valuable with the biology and biochemistry side really feeds in like at a pretty constant basis. But and then yeah, as far as any career advice is like what you're looking when you get into it. Yeah, there's certain spots that I knew I was just interested in something along that ballpark and just kind of went for it, which has its value. But then the other thing I would suggest doing to some level is think about the, and like just look online and talking to people on like a type of end goal that you might want to, similar roles that you might want to end up in, and think about something as you're entering into this industry, that like look at the entry level spots that might feed into that. So like these other guys have mentioned, it, you know, there's a lot of value in popping around and working in different areas to gain that experience. But yeah, so think about as you're going into that, like what type of roles will build into where you want to be. Because bourbon is a really interesting industry for sure. But you also don't want to pigeonhole yourself into something that you don't enjoy, because there's aspects like that if it's something that you're just like going to take anything and get your foot in the door, and it's like, oh, I really don't like fill in the blank kind of area. And especially if it doesn't help you get to the kind of spot where you want to be, try to make those smart decisions up front. Now, granted, there's not many spots that would be like that, but it's something worth considering. These guys hit the rest of the notes pretty well, so be open to any questions or anything. Those are for me.
Yes, we have a question. Go ahead.
From a biology or biochem perspective, is a PhD a viable option to do the kind of work that you do, or would you recommend a master's degree after undergrad?
I would say for most cases, a master's would be more than enough. There's several applications for kind of PhD level work, but the further you get into that, it's really the bigger company you're looking at working with. Because I know for sure, like both Beam and Brown-Forman, even Campari might have like one or two, but like those kind of bigger guys have a handful of PhDs kind of in the R&D type of realm. But for the most part, Roy Lee said he learned more from working than he did from some science teachers at Center, which I learned a good amount from the teachers at Center, but there's a certain level of it that you have to, there's not a lot of books written on how to run a distillery. So a good chunk of base knowledge is very important, but at a PhD level stuff, it depends exactly on what you're wanting to get into and what type of company is interesting to you.
Thank you.
I'll just kind of follow up with the other two presenters. Is there any course or set of courses you would recommend at Center, or a higher degree? What would you say are the important things for your roles?
Well, I guess I think what I would echo is getting work experience is so valuable, and practical experience that you can always. I mean, I went ahead and did a master's degree, and I think that was. I'm very glad I did that. It was did build on my skills and knowledge, but you can always sort of go and fill in the gaps of your knowledge, but that practical work experience just exposes you to a lot. So, if to go to that PhD level, I think is something that you'd have to have a lot of passion and direction, I think, to know what you want to go do with that, whether that is teaching or research or a particular area of an industry. But getting some work experience under your belt, I think, is really important. For my role, there's certainly elements of my education that I bring every day, but there is not a course that's out there, to help you for sure go in that direction. So I think a lot of it is go get some experience, get some, some understanding of your own strengths and interests, and then maybe go fill in any educational gaps, which don't have to be formal education either. There's so many, programs out there that are maybe ad hoc or, associated with the university, but fill in degrees or certifications that can be really helpful. So I guess that's my advice is, using your current education, go get some experience, and then see what you want to fill in or where you want to grow.
Thank you.
And I'll to first clarify, I took chemistry for non-majors, Marcus. It was more on me than it was on the professor. I'll be very honest about that. But I would say I echo what Matt said in the fact that there's no specific course that I could point to. But I will say one of the things that I have kind of really refined while at Center was your writing skills. I know that, you look at some of those classes, or when you have to, take the blue book or write the paper or whatever, and you're trying to articulate a thought. One of the things that I have found interacting with the workforce and people at all across different companies and different vendors and within our own company, a strong set of writing skills where you can succinctly put your ideas together, whether it's putting a one page together to, talk about a concept you're going to potentially bring to life, being able to really kind of paint that picture. Because a lot of times in my world, I'm dealing with something that is new or maybe hasn't existed before, or let's try it this way. And you have to go sell it to somebody else who's going to provide the funding for it or whatever it may be. That's a skill set that I absolutely credit to the professors I had at Center, who would write there and mark up those papers and tell you, you don't need this, or this is too much, or this is whatever. And that is a skill set that I use every single day. So it's a pain while you're going through it. And sometimes you look at it and be like, do they bleed on this paper? But it is definitely something that will serve you down the road.
Thank you. Great. Good points from everyone. Any other questions? Yeah.
So I did an internship at Brown-Forman this summer, and I kind of talked to them about this. It seems like you guys are on the same page. So would you recommend getting experience in like an entry-level job before going back to school if you were going to go back and get a master's degree or something like that?
I mean, I kind of did a hybrid of, it wasn't exactly like an internship or anything, which those are a lot more prevalent now than what they used to be as well. But there's some value for sure in doing that. But I would say kind of work it in however you can. Like even if I did mine like while I was getting my master's, I work part-time at Alltech during that, and it is extremely valuable. And I've talked to a bunch of other people who work for a bit and then go back and get MBAs if that's the kind of area that you're in, and they find it way more beneficial to do that after you can actually think of some scenarios to apply it. But it definitely helps with your perspective, but then there's some value too, and just like keeping your momentum going. And if you want to do a master's and whatever the topic is, then just go for it. So a little bit of both.
I would agree with that. I think there's so many life circumstances that are going to happen from your, in your 20s, into your 30s, and those, it can be hard to go back to school and leave the workforce. Fortunately, a lot of companies like Brown-Forman, provide for some funding, even, and tuition reimbursement to go do, higher education while you're working. It's just, I know people who have done it, they've done it successfully. It's, during certain periods of your life, it's easier than others. As I look back on my own experience, super grateful that I did it and got the higher education, quote unquote, out of the way. So that, my career, I didn't have to sort of take 2-3 years out of my working life to sort of try to juggle school and life and then family, just the way it worked for me. But it's not impossible, and I think it works different ways for different people. So it's just kind of knowing yourself, and if you think that the momentum you have now lets you go and get that master's done, you'll get a lot of value out of it. What I find is I look back and say, if I did some more education now, I would have a whole different mindset and would learn different things than I did when I was, younger. That doesn't make it better or worse, but being a lifelong learner is really what it's about. So, yeah, you can do it now, but keep that lifelong learning mentality as you go throughout your career, and that will pay dividends. I don't think there's the right or wrong answer for when you get, say, the piece of paper.
Any other questions? Okay. We've got just a few minutes. Let me see. Michael gave me a list of questions, but oh.
So this summer I did basically emerging markets. So I got to see a lot of different areas: finance, marketing, HR. And I liked marketing the best. So do you have any recommendations on like where to look for entry level jobs, or what type of roles to look for?
From a marketing standpoint, there's so many ways in. Two recommendations. One would be learning the industry. Certainly the supplier, which is who we work for, a lot of us, the people who make the products. But then there's our distributors and the people who sell it from us to the retail or account sector. There's opportunities there. And then, so don't limit yourself. There's only a few of those jobs. I think even, coming from a hospitality background, it's about learning what is working in this industry. So widen, your scope of what an entry level role could be. But if you have a mind to, spirits marketing and brand management, I think, getting some marketing training in addition to the experience, those two in combination. And that can be either through higher education. There are really great programs out there for marketing education that go beyond, the higher education. So there's a publication called Marketing Week. There's lots of marketing influencers and professors out there that I would encourage, getting the fundamentals of marketing under your belt to marry with your experience. And then, the entry level roles tend to be either in a promotional capacity, could be an associate or an assistant brand manager type roles. But if you have a little bit of experience first in the hospitality or the promotional sphere, it makes it easier to get that foot in the door for sort of the early brand management roles that ladder into a career in marketing. That's been my experience. And Roy, you may have some too. I imagine you deal with a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right in that there's not one approach that's the right way or the best way. It may just really come to what area is it that you may be most interested in, and if you can find your way in through that. I came in through the tourism hospitality side of things, which at Makers, we very much view that as a marketing tool. Because when folks come and visit our place, they see it hands-on, they get to dip a bottle, they get to do any of that type of stuff. They're leaving with definitely their mind shifts about what Makers is. So that is an important thing that'll impact buying decisions, forever for them, for a lot of people. So that's how we approach that side of it. Not to say that every visitor center, tour, and hospitality side of things is that way. But for us, that then, because it was approached that way, allowed me to see, okay, well, here's other ways that we can, reach people in maybe a non-traditional way of, print or advertising or media side of things. But what is it that's the kind of person-to-person connections? And that's so much of what I've found specifically within this industry is it is about the connections. whether it is person to person, but connected to the brand itself and what that identity is. So, yeah, I don't know that there's necessarily a right or a wrong way in. But yeah, I think that finding what maybe is available and works for you is great, because there is, as Matt was saying, a ton of different avenues to get there.
I didn't even expect to have an opinion here since I'm a biology guy, but I've worked a lot of events and things like that too. But the kind of double down on what these guys have said, being a sponge on everything, and like listen to all the podcasts you can find, which there's a bunch out now. Like get all the publications you can and just devour all those. But then also on the event side, there's a ton out there. You know, some of them are expensive, so don't necessarily do all those, but go to like every bourbon event that you can find too. And like, but while you're there, like one, talk to people, and two, like look at what's good about them and look what you might not like about them, and kind of, you know, those are things that like educationally that you don't necessarily get like credit for, but it's like invaluable as you go through, and you know, it'll come up and be of use more than you think.
There are also a lot of, advertising agencies, PR agencies, and those represent great entry-level experiences. Often you get lots of client experiences, so you may see a lot of different brands and get that experience, and then that can launch you into so many opportunities in the what's called the client side, or the people who are requesting the work from the agency. So a good place to start as well.
Thank you. I think those are all very valuable. A few people came in late, so I'm going to mention an opportunity. Do you all know Zach Brown through the Kentucky Chamber? I think there's a distillery council. Anyway, he was in contact with us and brought a flyer. And if you guys, if we came in late, there's a flyer on the table with a QR code that you can scan for an information session on doing being a tour guide at distilleries for next summer internships. So if you want to scan that, I think the date is November 17th, and you could just register for that and learn more about that side of things. All right, any final thoughts? As we probably actually we're a little bit over, but any other questions? We'll wrap it up. Okay, final thoughts from you guys, or?
Just thank you all. I think we will be doing Heaven Hill will be having an internship program, and I'm going to make sure the Career Services gets that information. So if there's interest, we'll be having some opportunities over this summer, and that will start actually sooner than you think. So I'll get that information over to Center Career Services and make sure anyone's interested in joining that program.
Perfect. All right. Thank you all so much. It's good to see center folks out there. And thank you again for sharing your information with our current students. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you